All right, cheers to you and welcome to Vinyl Happy Hour. I'm Skyler Davis, huge music geek and owner of Culture Shock Clothing and Records here in Rockford, Illinois. And I implore you to like this video if you're watching it right now. Also, be sure you subscribe to the channel so you can keep up to date on our new videos and record and stereo equipment videos whenever we're putting them up. And even better, would be great if you left us a comment, let us know what you think, what you're listening to, or any more info you have on some of the releases tonight. And go and find Culture Shock social media also. We're on Instagram, Culture Shock _, and on Facebook at Culture Shock Clothing and Records. With Vinyl Happy Hour, we try to pack in and give you so many great little details on some of the new releases, reissues, special limited indie store exclusives, but this is just a handful of some of the new releases we're getting in every week. So if you follow our social media or check even our up-to-date staff picks and new releases on our website at cultureshockshop.com, you can see a lot more of the other releases we're bringing into the store. We just like to break down a few every week and kind of give you a little more detail on them and inside. I don't know, through this pandemic and stimulus and other things going on, I feel like every week is getting close to like record store day levels of craziness with so many great releases coming in. I mean, not that long ago, it wouldn't be uncommon for us to only get 1 or 2 boxes of new releases in. From some of our different distributors and labels, but some of these weeks we are getting 3, 4, 5, 6, even 7 or 8 boxes of new vinyl every week, which is just wild on a weekly basis for getting that much new stuff in, and things that are also coming back into print. A lot of things we're going to talk about tonight are getting released this week. That's why we like to do a Thursday video to kind of give you an insight on what's getting released Friday, what's special, what's interesting, and what's the news. Like some of the news right now, Cheap Trick in Another World, their new album is out this weekend, but guess what? It's going to just be streaming and just the CD for right now. There's actually been a delay on the records, which those will actually be coming in like May 14th. Also, Record Store Day announced their list today, and that's coming up June 12th and July 17th. There's a big list of records coming out. Is that part of the reason that some of the pressing plants are behind? I don't know, but there's been a lot going on, and this is another one we've really been waiting for, so kudos to Cheap Trick, of course. This is a great power pop, good heavy rock album. I'm going to give a full deep dive review on it when the record comes out, but at least for some people you can get the CD. And we've also got a Rockford whiskey featured here. I'm drinking one of my favorites, the Grantview Distillery's 40 Winks. This is a locally sourced whiskey. Also, it was distilled in California while this distillery was getting up and going, but it is all bottled and packaged here and made with a local farm product, so double barrel kind of gives it a lot more maturity and good flavor too, to get that double barrel sipping into your whiskey. Here's another great classic album. It's weird to talk about things being so classic because this doesn't seem that old to me, but Train, Drops of Jupiter. This is the 20th anniversary of this album. It comes with a nice thick inner sleeve also. Of course, you got Drops of Jupiter printed out there. And this is the limited version on this kind of copperish gold. Actually, we're calling it bronze vinyl, I guess. My coppers and golds are a little off, but this is bronze. One interesting thing to note about this album, I'm sure we've all heard Drops of Jupiter a lot and stuff like that, but the recording on this, like, you can't mess this album up. It sounds great. There was a like mobile fidelity like audiophile version that came out a few months ago, but this is the more standard version, but limited color vinyl. It still sounds great. The instrumentation and the instruments on it sound great. I think a big reason behind it is not just the band's songs, but produced by Brendan O'Brien, who has worked with huge artists. He's produced and worked with Bruce Springsteen, Neil Young. Yeah, he's worked with Neil Young too. Of course, Neil Young is notorious for being, wanting absolute great recordings and great sounding records, and Pearl Jam. So he's worked with a lot of big bands who have great sounding records. Train, though, this was 2001. We know that's a dead zone for vinyl. Finally, it's available. Some of the older Train records I've noticed that you never see are selling for hundreds of dollars. This is just a great one to have. Obviously, you get a little bit of that alternative feel and just kind of that jammy rock feel, and even a little bit of Counting Crows feel. But a great recorded album if you want something like just mellow, chill, good album. Speaking of great albums and reissues and things that are hard to find, getting a great copy of some of these older Blue Note jazz records are also some things. I've got some of my favorite prog records that are getting reissued that I want to show off the color version. Now, these are not on color vinyl or anything, but what's interesting about these Blue Note records is that they're completely analog mastered from the original tapes. Lately you've been seeing, a few years back, Blue Note was doing their 75th anniversary series, then they were doing their 80th anniversary series, then they're doing something called the Tone Poet series, which were like audiophile gatefold pressings. Right now, this is like the beginning, I believe, of some reissues called the Blue Note Classic series. Now, these are also mastered by Kevin Gray, and they are pressed at Superior. Wait, where's this pressed at? I forgot now. Oh yeah, Optimal. Manufactured Optimal on 180 gram vinyl. But that's in Germany. So these are pressed in Germany, and they do these polylined inner sleeves. Wow, these things sound so good. This, by the way, if you don't have it, is probably one of the most, essential of the whole Art Blakey series. Monin, I think it was 1958, has become a staple in your jazz collection and it's been, standardized and played so many times. This would be, in the timeline of things, if you only know or think about like Kind of Blue, like the year before Kind of Blue, Miles Davis album. But this is a great Blue Note piece, obviously hard to find original pressings or very expensive. That is just coming out this weekend. We are only going to have a couple of those available, probably a lot of demand for that one. That's a classic, and it, like I said, stands up there with like a Love Supreme and Kind of Blue, stuff like that. Now here's an underappreciated one, I think, that should be up there. This is also coming out this weekend. This is Hank Mobley's Soul Station. This was 1960. Not to keep talking about Kind of Blue, but I mean, you've got Wynton Kelly playing with him, Art Blakey, and Paul Chambers. I mean, that's like some of those classic lineups that did a lot of stuff with Miles and stuff like that, which was weird that Miles really, outside of the players in his group, he didn't play much on Blue Note records. But the Blue Note records are just a staple of the hard bop sound and just the essential jazz sound that took over the world. These players are so good. Hank Mobley is known as like a more of a large, gentle, giant soul on the sax, and he definitely kind of leaves some room for everyone else to kind of play around him and do some solos. This is a great album to get into if you're not into jazz yet, by the way. There's another thing. I just happened to be looking online today just because I've never had a copy of this record. I always wanted one. I've seen a couple like cheesy, bad digital reissues and stuff from the late 70s and 80s and stuff. But I just happened to look online, and original press just sold today for like $14.06 or something crazy, like over $1,400. So kudos to whoever that is just for attaining getting an original pressing. But how nice that you can get these nice analog pressings at affordable prices. This is not going to be like some far out like later Miles or John Coltrane stuff, but it's also not as chill and easy listening as like a Stan Getz or something like that. This is right in the middle, a good, smooth, hard bop jazz album. I think you should add it to your collection, probably Soul Station from Hank Mobley. So be aware now and be on the lookout for some of these classic vinyl series coming out. They're going to be reissuing some of their most classic albums. Whereas the Tone Poet kind of brought out some stuff that had been shelved for a long time or you hadn't, seen that much. It's just also funny and so random that we also just got back in stock a few other albums, like the Curtis Fuller album. And he's actually playing on there with Hank Mobley. And then I also got this Donald Byrd one, and that's also, besides Herbie Hancock and Kenny Burrell, Hank Mobley is also playing sax on that. And one thing I love about every Blue Note album is the front or the back tells you every player who's playing with the group or with the leader on it. So it's kind of cool to kind of trace your jazz lineage or your jazz players that you're comfortable with to find the stuff you like. And just to kind of talk and compare, like I said, these sound spotless, these are great. I'm not complaining or anything, but just to show you how they've stepped things up, this just came back in stock. I picked it up, they're like $23.99 or something. This is the 75th anniversary series. It's thinner jacket. It's cool that it has a printed inner sleeve with some of their classic albums but it's not the polylined inner sleeve. It's thinner vinyl. There's even some white scuff marks even just from either being shipped or in storage. And there's a couple little pops and ticks, and it's not even completely flat. There's just a little bit, just a light, like a warp, but it might go away. Sometimes you open these up and press them out or lay them in your collection. Didn't affect the playback or anything, but it's just those little details. And these were only being pressed, like 4 or 5 years ago. To see the quality that the later Blue Note stuff now that they've put into it, being pressed from analog masters, having spotless records with no scratches, no scuffs, no warp. and just great sounding records. This still sounds great. I love the album. I'm not upset at all. That's kind of like what happens with some records. But I don't think you would see that coming out in the newer, you know, slightly better presses and higher, a few dollars more for the newer pressings. So I think they've done a great job of stepping that up and knowing that consumers want a great sounding record. So it's just funny that all this stuff, even though that Hank Mobley Soul Station came out, some of his other older albums and side albums with him came out this week also. I was just like, did somebody over there at Blue Note just be like, anything to do with Hank Mobley, let's get these all out this week. Like, so weird how those all kind of showed up at once. Now, here's another one where we got more than one. I've been seeing a lot of the Between the Buried and Me stuff get reissued over the last couple of years. A lot of these are limited. This is actually going to be the 2021 reissue, remaster, color vinyl pressings of these. These also, those records that I just talked about, the Train, the Jazz, and these Between the Buried and Me, are up in our store right now and online at cultureshockshop.com. So if you want to get into these, because I know these probably won't be around long, they didn't say how many they're making, but it's a 2021 issue, so you know they're not going to be making them probably past this year. These are limited double LP color vinyls of both recent kind of Between the Buried and Me, and recent as in like now 2012 and 2016. This is Coma Ecliptic, Between the Buried and Me's album from 2016, I think. And they did a double LP on sand color vinyl, so it's kind of like to match the cover. You get this like great sounding, and I'll be honest too, I had to play these because I didn't have a lot of faith. I was like, these are gonna sound fine, I'm sure, but this is a Metal Blade one. The vinyl's a little bit thinner, the jackets are a little bit thinner, and just the look of it, the sheen, I was like, I don't know, this may just be okay, but guess what? Blew me away. These sound so great, so detailed, because this band has a lot of keys and even all kinds of extra guitar and keyboards going on, and all the details were great, and the vocal range is crazy from Between the Buried and Me, because he can have these really high, really singy parts, and then these really grumbled deep lows. I mean, they get very metal, very heavy in some parts, and the range of the instruments and the vocals sound perfect. I love it. The other great thing about this one is you got printed inner sleeves, you've got a poster. This Coma Ecliptic album was not my most favorite album of theirs. I actually like the Parallax 2, which I'll show off next. But this album's really grown on me over the last few years, and this has definitely reached the hierarchy of me, you know, one of my favorite albums from Between the Buried and Me. I love the poster that comes in here with it, though. It kind of looks like this, like an old Western movie, but if it was shot in outer space or something like that. You can take a good look at that. This is the only one that comes with the poster, though. I don't know if there was any other pressings of this that had come with the poster in the past. It's possible that I missed out on it if it did. But I was like so thrilled to get a poster. I was like, oh, that's cool. I want to hang that up. Let's check out Parallax 2. Now, both records on Coma Ecliptic are that kind of sand black. The inner sleeve artwork on this, too. Let's just take a close look at that. Very nice. Hopefully you can see that. But to match the cover of the album, you've got your pink and blue splatter vinyl. It's a great job of kind of pairing it with the album cover. Both of the records are gatefold as well, and come with downloads. I probably won't use the downloads, but it's cool that they're there in case I do need it. I wanted to store it on one of my devices. And both have printed inner sleeves and lyrics too. These sound really great. Like I said, I don't do have a lot of Metal Blade. Some of the older Between the Buried and Me releases and anniversary things that have been coming out are analog pressings from Craft Records. I do like those a lot. So I was like, I don't know, this is something where you just got to take a chance on and buy it and play it, and luckily they sound great. I've been really happy. Like every record, I get a lot of records and I open up and we play a lot at the store. The quality control, considering how crazy the world has been lately, I think is surprisingly good. Now shipping and stuff like that, that's one thing. You know, luckily everyone is double, triple packing everything and make sure things get to us safely. Hopefully people, if they're buying, and I know when we ship out records, you know, 1 or 2 at a time, I take a lot of extra care to make sure there's overage on the cardboard on the corner so they're not getting thrown around and smashed up. So here's another one. So we're talking about, these are some great jazz records I was talking about to get into, the Art Blakey Monin and the Hank Mobley. If you wanted to get into something that I considered a lot more like a free jazz piece, this is a reissue of an one of the early Alice Coltrane albums, Huntington Ashram Monastery. Monastery. So I think the first side is playing all harp on the record, and the second side all piano. She's also playing with just a three-piece, so it's Ron Carter on bass and Rashid Ali on drums and percussion. This is a beautiful album. It's kind of spiritual in a way, or kind of meditational in a way, but it's also just kind of odd to see in the jazz realm, especially in the free jazz realm, to see a female player and to see a harp player. Those are combinations that you don't see in a lot of jazz layouts, and it just works so well. This is just shortly after her husband, John Coltrane, had passed away. She had done a couple albums and works with him on Impulse Records. This was an Impulse piece. And 69, I think this was her second album. Her records are so rare and so avant-garde and so strange. They haven't gotten a lot of reissues, and they probably didn't sell a lot when they first came out. So they're highly collectible. So it's really great to see some of these reissues coming out. Of course, nice packaging, nice jacket, and super. I was surprised at how thick the vinyl was. I'm not sure if it came from a digital source or not, to be honest. I played it on a very nice turntable with nice speakers and stuff. Sounds great, but I couldn't really compare it to another one because originals of this usually $100 to $300. Really thick vinyl though. It's possibly from a digital source, but it doesn't matter. It's a great sounding recording and great music, and that's really what we're here for. And if this is the only version of it you can get, this is a good one to get your hands on. But anyway, it's got a note in here from her. She had talked to Ornette Coleman before she wrote the inner monologue on here, and just talked about her wanting to do a solo album and stuff like that, and talking about bringing kind of a spirituality to the music. So it's got a great story from her, and just it's a great sounding album. Like, to me, Ron Carter, who's been a bass player on a million albums, one of the most recorded bass player and jazz album players ever. He just keeps a really cool, groovy kind of bass beat through it. The drums and the percussion are not in your face too much, and the constant harp and piano playing, it's almost like the sound of like, when you go to somewhere and there's like an aquarium sound or waterfall or something like that. It's kind of soothing in a way. And a lot of free jazz, can get really far out. If you're not ready for it, it'll just blow your head off, or it can sound like, people say it sounds like someone practicing or never being ready. So this one is not quite like that at all. This is a lot easier to get into. So if you are looking to get into something past your classical and your bebop and your post-bop jazz and stuff like that, getting into free jazz, I think a lot of Alice Coltrane and even some of the earlier John Coltrane is a great way to start. Until you're really ready to go to the next level. To me, I've liked a lot of this far out and weird jazz and strange stuff because I liked a lot of psychedelic and like really strange avant-garde music. So I kind of went backwards into jazz and stuff like that. So it's kind of interesting now to go back and hear some of the more traditional and like those Blue Note classics. Again, it's great to see them getting reissued because it's stuff I never thought I'd find, So who knew that there'd be a great demand for this again and that it would be getting reissued. So I'm so happy to see that. It still gives me the thrill of the hunt to find originals and their rarity. So talking about avant-garde, strange, weird, fun music, this is... I'm going to have trouble saying it again. Anoraxia or something. This is a Mort Garson project. If you've been watching our videos or saw me talked about, what was that Plantasia album called? Mother Earth Plantasia or something? Do you remember? It's that classic Mort Garson album where he made a whole album of music for plants. He even had a book about which song and thing was for what type of plant. He was a Moog synthesizer electronic genius in the 60s and 70s, and this is a 1975 album called The Electronic Musical Impressions of the Occult by Anoraxia. The unexplained, occult. But it's actually just Mort Garson, really, engineering and making this album. And they did it on clear orange vinyl. Each song and stuff is supposed to represent, different part of the occult. But it really just sounds cool. It sounds like Kraftwerk warming up or practicing with their computers. It's kind of strange electronic music. This probably would have been hugely influential to all those kind of crazy, dark, scary 80s movies that had all these electronic soundtracks and synthesizers and stuff, because this is the roots of it. This is probably one of the strangest albums that was available on a major label back in the day. You know, right now I think Sacred Bones is releasing this, and it's never been reissued. It's first official reissue anyway since 1975. There's probably been bootlegs of it and stuff like that. But even more interesting that it's on, you know, this clear orange vinyl. So I'm just going to read for you what the sticker says so you get a little more detail on it. Electronical Musical Impressions of the Occult by Mort Garson. Electronic pioneer Mort Garson of Mother Earth's Plantasia takes on supernatural phenomenon with lush synth grooves of the unexplained in his only release under the name Anoraxia. So he actually called his group or whatever Anoraxia, but it's just Mort Garson. But anyway, yeah, he's Moog synthesizer, and yeah, this is the first official release in '75. So anyway, it's far out, it's cool to hear, and it's actually more musical than you would think. It's not just lots of bloops and bleeps and stuff like that. There is definitely a lot of synthesized rhythms and things like that, and some stuff that would sound almost like sound effects being put into music. But it's really interesting. I've had originals of this a couple of times. I like to look for the strange stuff. Of course, I've been on, you know, instrumental kick, listening to instrumental music and John Carpenter and soundtracks and jazz and stuff like that. So it's kind of fun and kind of relaxing the way to listen to some of this and to explore something totally different. Oh, I don't want to forget, besides I did already tell you to subscribe to this channel and check it out, and check out our website at cultureshockshop.com. But I want to talk about an album that actually isn't for sale at the store, but it was a freebie for me and just something really interesting. This is Lost for Life. A good friend of mine, good customer of ours, Sean, you know who you are. Thanks a lot, buddy, for hooking me up with this. This is actually a pretty rare album because they only made 150 copies on this color anyway. And they did like 150 copies on like red vinyl. But Lost for Life, this is Don't Let It Consume You, as performed by Lost for Life, a 2021 release. This is a cool hardcore album, good metalcore album. He gave it to me, it's free. He's friends with one of the guys in the band. Hopefully we'll get to see them tour. I forgot, I think he lives in Michigan or something. I actually forgot where he's at, but he's not local or anything like that. And he put together this album with another musician in the group, and they did it all via computer and stuff like that, and back and forth, and emailed things back and forth and all the files, and made an album during the whole lockdown. And it's a killer album. It's heavy. It's definitely, you know, got some of your sounds of some of the bands that were on Rise Records, and also maybe like Ask Me Alexandria and Norma Jean even. But there's a little more melody and stuff. Between the screams, there's some good melody, lots of guitar too. And it definitely, you know, it says for fans of Armor for Sleep and Under Oath, and that's a great thing. So I love whenever a band, if they don't have their band name on it, when they include a sticker or a label that has the band name. So I love the little packaging. But this is on a very small label and possibly like privately produced and released by the band. But they even have an insert. They did it on nice thick color vinyl. Sounds good. And let's show the artwork in the full insert. So if you can find this album or look up the band, check them out, support them. Definitely hope to see this a touring project that will come out of this too. I think it's their only album, full-length album that they put together. They had another EP that I noticed that had been like just a limited CD. But I just wanted to show that off. I thought that was cool. It's nice to see friendly people who share music with us or give music to your friends or people or local record store or whatever. We meet a lot of bands and people that come through are friends with different bands. And that's one of the things we love to feature, some of the different music and smaller labels that aren't represented so much. You know, at I won't mention any big name stores, but you know, the big stores in the world that carry music also, but not necessarily independent releases and smaller labels. So thank you so much for all the support that you guys give us. Thank you for honoring the fact that we do carry a lot of independent labels and special limited indie store releases, and of course our local section. Oh yeah, speaking of local, that's right, I'm sporting a shirt. We actually have bleached tie-dyed versions of our new Culture Shock shirt up on our website too. So thanks to our friends KO and John from Rockford Scumbags for doing this cool collaboration with us. And then John, actually, this is a pre-print shirt, but he actually bleached tie-dyed the shirts. They're on our website too. We have all sizes, small through XXX. So put an order in for one of those if you can, or stop in the store and pick one up. It's great to work with local artists in the rest of our store and our boutique too, not just in our music section. So yeah, we're gonna have a little more whiskey tonight and listen to some more records. I'm gonna change out my stereo tonight. I'm gonna hook up the Sansovie tube receiver to keep enjoying some records, to swap out my stereo here. But yeah, let us know, like I said, leave a comment, let us know any more details you have on records or things you're looking forward to coming up, and we'll share new releases and more items with you every week for another Vinyl Happy Hour. Cheers.